Welcome to The Funnel. My name is John Shea, and I'm the president of Alignment Group. This is episode number 206 of The Funnel, Sales Manager Best Practices for Delivering Feedback. Kind of a mouthful there now that I say that. I'm not sure that's going to play well in the marketing SEO, but it was kind of the best I could do to explain this podcast. So please forgive me. Before we get started, episode number 206, head on over to alignment-group.com/thefunnel, subscribe, and we will send you the show notes. Yes, we do. We send out every Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We send an email out to all of our subscribers that includes everything we've published in the last week. You just click on the link. You can get to the video. You can get to the audio. You can get to the show notes, as well as our blogs. Our agenda for this week. Number 1, know thy sales rep. Number 2, ground rules. Number 3, slow and steady wins the race. And finally, number 4, collaboration. So let's start with know thy sales rep. I'm laughing here because the image on the video is Shakespeare. A William Shakespeare video or image. So sometimes I don't see this ahead of time. I write the notes and I put it together, and the images are added later. And she knows who she is. So know thy sales rep. What I'm talking about here is it's extremely difficult to provide quality feedback to somebody you don't know in the way that a manager should, a sales manager should. Obviously, in my role, I provide feedback to people and I work with them one-on-one. But what's interesting, and as my relationship evolves with clients, whether they're business owners or sales managers or sales reps, it tends to improve over time, and the feedback tends to be taken in a much better way than in the beginning. Once you establish ground rules in a relationship and how you're going to work together, and I get a better understanding of who they are and I know how to deliver, then it's amazing the kind of results I can achieve. I will tell you in the beginning, sometimes it's difficult. So I start with, like in my role and like I have in the past as a manager, with the assessment. Oftentimes I see managers read the assessment and then they put it in a file cabinet somewhere. It stays with HR and never to be seen again. I've always encouraged managers to read the assessments on an ongoing basis. It gives you great insight into a sales rep when things are going well, and sometimes when things aren't going so well. Take it out and read it. Read it before a quarterly review or a monthly review or a pipeline review. Get in a habit of reading it over and over and over again, because that's going to give you some insight and that's going to jog your memory a little bit and help you help them. Yes, they evolve. Yes, they get better. Yes, things change. And you can, with the Objective Management Group assessment, you can go back and reassess someone after a year and see where you are. So you're not limited to the one time only. So I think that's really important. Understand the assessment. Number 2, I put goal setting here. And I think folks are going to look at this and say, what do you mean goal setting? A good goal setting exercise digs deep into the salesperson, what it is that they want to achieve. I get it. From a management perspective, it's here's your quota, and then let's work backwards. This is the income you want to achieve, and let's work backwards. As long as the two meet, if it meets the company's objectives and it meets your objectives, everybody's happy. Well, I would challenge that a little bit and say you probably have to go a little deeper. Some reps respond well or enjoy things or stuff, right? Some of them like the win prizes or whatever it is that you do. And I'm just giving sort of basic examples. Others are in it for the win. They want to win, okay? I just watched a documentary on Warren Buffett, and it was very interesting. For him, it's about winning. And the scorecard is the money. It's not about being wealthy and having wealthy things like bigger houses and yachts and fancy cars. It's about winning. And that scorecard, again, is the money. Understanding that about him gives you some insight. understanding that about your reps gives you insight. What is it that's driving them? So as you go through a really good goal setting exercise, you're looking at the company objectives and how they marry against your sales reps' objectives, and you're helping them visualize what that end game looks like, professionally and personally. What are they going to get out of it? And if they work backwards like you typically do, what you really want to work backwards towards is the basic everyday objectives that help you meet the larger goal. So what you do today helps you meet your weekly goal. What you do at the end of the week helps you meet your monthly goal by the end of the week. What helps you meet your monthly goal. What you do monthly helps you quarterly. What you do quarterly helps you annually, right? It makes sense. So you start with the big picture and you work your way down and you break it down into the practical, tactical things that you can do on a daily basis to be successful. Well, the same goes with achieving your personal goals. What does it do for you to have that kind of success in business? Can you give back more? Can you volunteer more? Can you provide money to charities or churches? What is it that you want to do? Do you want to buy a bigger house? Do you want to provide for your children's education? Do you want to buy a car? I don't know. Whatever it is that is driving you towards success. So you have the assessment and you go through the goal setting exercise. It really gives you insight into who they are as a person, professionally and personally. And what's wrong with that? I make no judgments on what people want to do with that success. It just helps me understand how I can understand them, and I can help motivate them, and I can help provide them the kind of feedback that they need to be successful. So I encourage you to understand them on a personal and professional level, not an unprofessional level in the personal realm, but you know what I mean. I'm truly interested in the health and the well-being of the people that work for me. It's not an act. I want to know about their kids. I want to know about their family. I want to know about what they're doing on the weekends. I want to know about what they like and what they don't like. I'm interested, very interested. And when bad things happen to them personally, the loss of a loved one, I feel for them. I empathize with them. I understand. It helps me know them better. Through my coaching sessions, I get a really good understanding of who they are as a person and how they respond to the feedback. I'm going to ask, how do you like feedback? So a quick story. I had a friend, two families, my family and another family went on vacation together. And we rented this beautiful house on a lake, and he brought his boat, and it was just a great week. Second day we're there, kids are downstairs playing pool, and his son lifts up the pool cue, breaks the lamp above the pool table. They come up and they get me, and we go down and we look at it and we clean it up, and I talk to my wife and his wife, and we're like, okay, well, we got to tell his dad, who's a very good friend of mine. So we're sitting at the dinner table, and I say, hey, listen, how do you like your news, your bad news? Do you like it somebody to really kind of explain to you what happened? Do you want them to rip it off like it's a Band-Aid really fast? He goes, I want to rip it off as a Band-Aid. And I said, well, I won't give the name away. Your son broke the lamp above the pool table. Right? So it's kind of a funny story. We ended up replacing it and everything was fine. But the whole thing, the whole sort of moral to that story is, how do you like your information delivered to you? I'm not one for somebody dancing around. Don't ask me to read between the lines. Don't say something and mean something else and expect me to get it. I get it. It just irritates me. Tell me straightforward. Hit me between the eyes. I actually told that to a prospect a couple of weeks ago, and he hit me between the eyes. That's fine. Hit me between the eyes. Let me know. So the coaching sessions, I really want to know what works and what doesn't. How do you like this delivered? How do you learn? What's the easiest way? How can I show you so you're successful? It's not about this is the way I do it and you have to adjust to me. For me, it's about understanding you so I can deliver the information in a way that's going to help you be successful. So that know thy sales rep is really getting a good understanding of who they are as a person, professionally, personally, what drives them to the success they're trying to achieve in work and in life, how they learn, strengths and weaknesses inside the assessment, et cetera, et cetera. Once you kind of understand that, and it might take a little time, then you move on to the ground rules. Feedback is just not a regurgitation. You're not puking information all over somebody or feedback all over them. Ground rules should have structure. This is how I'm going to provide feedback. This is why I'm going to provide feedback. This is the way it's going to be done. This is the way it's going to work with you. You say, well, you just said, how do you like your... Well, you can adjust to the individual. You can have a basic structure, and you can have enough inside of there to be unique with the person you're dealing with. And you start with, I'm not trying to change who you are as a person. I don't want a bunch of mini-me's running around. I'm not trying to make you into me. Big mistake. Managers make it all the time. Talked to a guy the other day. He's an amazing sales guy. I heard through the grapevine, through his boss and through another consultant that was doing marketing work with him, just how phenomenal this guy is. And when I was talking to him, I was just blown away by his dedication and his drive towards success and what he does. He even has it mapped out in the car. It's a long drive between appointments and calls. He's in the field a lot. What he does in the car. And it isn't about listening to classic rock or whatever music he listens to. It's about how can I function in that time frame? Well, I can get calls out of the way. I can do this. Obviously, he's not texting, but you understand what I'm talking about. This is car set up like an office to be most productive and maximize his time. He doesn't like to waste time at his office, quote unquote. He wants to be in the field. If I made him a manager, I wouldn't expect him to turn everybody into him. Do I want sales reps to maximize the time, be the best they could possibly be? Yes. But I don't want to turn them into drones of him. Right? If I was him, I wouldn't want to do that because it's really hard to do that. First of all, most of us would find ourselves annoying. So if we're managing ourselves, we might get a little annoyed. Second of all, it's not right to try to change somebody like that. You have a structure you need to work with in your company. It's very clear. This is the structure. This is how and why we give feedback. I'm not going to try to change you, but I need you to stay within the framework. I need you to follow our methodology, use our sales process, understand our product and messaging, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the things that I need you to do. But if you're the kind of guy that needs 2 minutes to kind of get warmed up personally with a prospect versus the other rep who's straight into business, that's who you are. And I'm not going to try to change you. I'm going to tell you that right up front. Ground rule. How and why, structure. And I'm not going to change you. 2, 3, 4. That's 4. That's 3. Okay. I'm not going to edit this out because I'm now talking to myself. It's a stream of consciousness. So structure, how and why. And I'm not going to change you, or 3. I'm also going to be very positive. What do I mean by that? If I have negative feedback, how can I be positive? That's not what I mean. I'm going to tell you the things you're doing right. I'm going to give you feedback on the positive. A lot of managers think feedback is something that I need to tell you to fix you or to help you get better. I need to tell you something. I need to give you feedback on something that needs work. I don't need to give you feedback on what you're doing well. That's wrong. People like to know if they're succeeding or not. Now, I say this all the time. You don't get a cookie for getting out of bed in the morning and showing up at the sales meeting on time. Wow, really, great job showing up this morning. Thank you. That's expected. You're expected to show up at work with clothes on. Okay? You don't get a prize for wearing clothes. It's expected. What I'm talking about is the work itself. I'm going to give you some positive feedback on the things that you're doing well because I want you to understand how those types of things can create leverage for you and help you in the sales process and help you with success. And then I can show you the things that you're doing maybe that need a little work that are hindering your ability to move forward in the sales process. So I'm going to show you what's working and I'm going to show you what's not working. And we're going to work on those things. And I'm going to put a form together to provide you with quality feedback. We do a feedback form in our onboarding program as well. I want you to get used to my feedback. I want you to understand that I'm going to provide that. We did a podcast last week on ride-alongs, and part of that included feedback, a feedback provision. These are the calls we went on. This is what happened. This is our action items, et cetera, et cetera. This is what worked. I want to give you that feedback in every step of what we do. And I'm not just going to dump forms on you, but you understand, if we do a quarterly review or an annual review, you're going to get some feedback from me. If we're on a ride along, you're going to get feedback. If you're doing a presentation for the team, you'll get feedback. You're always going to get feedback. I'm going to say, you know what? You nailed it. Years ago, before we would do a presentation, let me lay this out for you. We had these in-house workshops where we would bring prospects in 20, 30 at a time, and we would demonstrate the value of the software. And we did it a little differently than most companies. We didn't just sit them in a room with a PowerPoint, free lunch, and have them fall asleep. We brought them in, did some introductions, give them a basic understanding of what it is we were going to cover. And then we actually physically walked them through the software. It was a document management system. So it was a way to get documents into the system and process them for whatever we needed to process them for. So we had stations set up throughout our company, and we would walk these large groups around. Okay, this is what happens when the paperwork comes in here. This is how it works. So they got a real good visual. They got to see it working in action. Wow, how powerful was that? Then we would come back, put lunch on the table, put lunch out. Everybody would have lunch, and we'd have a little free form while folks were eating for about 15 minutes, and then we'd jump into the second half of what we were covering. And to do that presentation, you had to go through a pretty rigorous process of feedback. You had to stand in front of the team, that included me. It was my team. I had to stand in front of that team and present. And they had to take notes and tell me what worked and what didn't work. You're saying this word over and over and over again. You're jumping all over the place. You got to stand back. You're spitting. It's whatever it is. Okay? Feedback. What's working, what's not working. Then, and only then, when you corrected everything that was wrong, you could present. That's the value of providing feedback. You get better at what you do. It's the role. It's what you're here for. Slow and steady wins the race. Okay, so we went from Shakespeare to Aesop's fable. So let's be a picture of the tortoise and the hare here. Slow and steady wins the race. What does that mean? What that means is you can't data dump on people everything that they need to fix right away. You need to really look at them, understand them as an individual, go back to what I said, provide a structure and a program for feedback, be open to their responses back in terms of how they learn and what works for them. Tell them you're not going to change them. Then look at what needs work, where you need to help them. I put detailed portfolio. In addition to the assessment, you really want to have good notes on what's working and what's not. You want to prioritize those things where they're struggling. And you want to get feedback from them. It's a two-way conversation. You want to talk about where they're struggling. You want to hear from them on what it is. And then you prioritize together. You pick one or two or three of those things at a time, and you chunk it down. And you deliver the help and the feedback that they need in smaller portions. So the feedback shouldn't be all 8 things that they need. It's really the 2 or 3 things that are prioritized at this point. And once that's resolved and you've made some real strong headway, then you move on to the next group. Until you're done. And are you done forever? No, you go back and you start over again, and you look on the and you start tweaking the little things. You just keep getting better and better and better. And here's what works with feedback. Be specific. It's like I say all the time to reps, or I say all the time to I say quite often to my own kids, if you're telling me something, the teacher always does this. It always happens. Be specific. I want to understand in context exactly what happened. Don't tell me they always do it. Give me specifics. So when you're providing feedback, be specific. Provide depth and context. Something they can grab a hold of and they can use to help solve the problem. And you do that in a number of ways. With specific deals they're working on, that's one of the better ways to do it. I kind of comb that in with my stories. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that. You do a little bit at a time. Now you have something. You prioritized it, you're specific, you're providing depth, and you're doing a few at a time. Next is collaboration. I use this a lot. I use the word collaboration a lot in my podcast. I want them to take ownership of this problem. I want them to admit it before we even start working on it. Here's what I've noticed. Here's what I've seen. Here's what you're doing well. Here's some things that I think that need some work. What do you think? I'm going to ask really good questions and I'm going to layer it out. Once they take ownership of the problem, Then we're going to move forward into resolving it. Like I just said, chunk it down a little bit at a time, very clear feedback. But I want them to write it out. I want them to tell me where they're struggling. And then I want to ask them questions and layer those questions on the problem solve. It's not just me giving them the response and saying, this is how you fix this. This is the feedback, A, B, C, D, do it this way and you're done. No, I want to ask questions like a therapist. Ask questions. Somebody has a problem. Most of the time they're listening and they're asking really good questions to get out of you the depth of the problem and how to solve it, because it's already in you. It's the same here with a little bit of guidance, a little bit of questions, layered right. They take ownership of it. They feel part of the solution. And then I have expectations that they execute on that. And I want feedback from them on how they executed, what worked, what didn't work. And I'm going to hold them accountable to that. So we're going to end that feedback session with some things to do. And we're going to talk about execution. And I'm going to hold them accountable to getting it done. Maybe the next deal. What happened? I made those adjustments and it worked. This is what I did. This is how I did it. You executed and you were held accountable because you solved your problem. It's not always that easy. Sometimes it takes a little work. But once you're there, man, it's home run. I hope this makes sense. Kind of went off on my stories there. Subscribe to the funnel. Head on over to alignment-group.com/the-funnel. Hit us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter @ShayJohnR. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn. And somehow Google Plus made it back into the video. I own that. I should have taken that out. We are on Google Plus, but no one else is there. So I wouldn't bother going over there. You can email me, jshay@alignment-group.com. You can find us at alignment-group.com. As always, thank you for subscribing and keep filling the funnel.